Pickle, let's go to the hotline. It's time to talk a little Texas Longhorns football with the host of Eyes on Texas, the Texas Longhorns podcast on the Republic of Football Podcast Network. We're joined by our friend Erin Hogan. Erin, how are you?
Hey guys, doing great. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you hopping on with us. I know you just got done talking for a long time on the radio, and so thanks for agreeing to talk some more. Texas is now the number 3 team in the nation. They are 4-0. They are in a lot of ways entering that kind of echelon where they're talked about in those hushed tones as far as what could be possible. From your perspective, from the outset of the season, I know there were big expectations, but is it surprising to you right now the way that Texas is being talked about?
Surprising, no. I mean, I think there were a lot of expectations through the summer that this team could and has put together a roster that should compete for the Big 12 championship. I mean, that was really the off-season conversation. We called it the all-gas, no excuses year for the Longhorns to make it to Arlington and win a Big 12 championship or certainly try to play for one. But the questions, Quinn Ewers, is he the quarterback that leads you there? Steve Sarkisian still hasn't, won a championship as a head coach. Is this roster and this team ready to be mature enough to play week to week and put themselves in that position? I think the month of September so far has checked a lot of boxes for people. That this team's got a lot of substance to it. It's a really good mix of veteran players. What we always talk about on the Eyes on Texas and on my show here in Austin is, there are a lot of guys that came back this year for this roster that are never going to play in the SEC. This is it for them. And, they're providing a lot of leadership. I mean, I'm talking about Christian Jones, a right tackle, who's a 6-year player who could have, put his name in the draft last year. Jordan Whittington, Jalen Ford, the linebacker, was told he had a pretty good grade for the draft last year after his great year last year. And it goes on and on. There's a lot of guys. Tavondre Sweat could have gone into the draft last year, but came back. So I think they have a really nice nucleus of veteran leaders who aren't worried about the SEC. They're not worried about the future. They're really just worried about this season and maximizing this season for, leaving a legacy for the last season of the Big 12. And, the Longhorns won the first ever Big 12 in the mid-'90s, and they haven't won enough Big 12 championships for Longhorn fans, and I think for anybody that's paying attention, but to win the first and the last and finish would be strong. So I think they're getting great leadership. I think the young guys that have been infused into that, Sark's just done a great job of building depth on this team through recruiting, the portal, bringing people back. They haven't lost a lot of guys that normally or in a lot of other programs might have jumped into the portal. I think of a guy like Jonathan Brooks, the running back who's blown up here the last couple of days. He's a guy who played behind Bijan Robinson and Roshan Johnson after he got here from Hallettsville. And then all of a sudden Texas recruits C.J. Baxter, a 5-star kid from Florida, and he's running second team to him. This day and age, a lot of guys would have jumped out of here, and he did not. And C.J. has been hurt first couple of games, and he has just taken off, and I think he's established himself as the lead running back for Texas moving forward. So there's a lot of substance to it. The win at Alabama was huge to really build confidence in that locker room. And then, now we're to the next step where it's, can they play week to week? The Wyoming game was a little, kind of a letdown because they didn't play great against Wyoming for 4 quarters. But then last week up in Waco in another hostile environment, they just played great and really outclassed Baylor in every possible way. So, sure, a lot of excitement, and now 2 big games coming against the only other 2 ranked teams in the Big 12.
And I know that is, you go back to last week against Baylor. That felt like such a thorough dismantling of a Bears team that is struggling right now, plain and simple. I don't think there's really any doubt about it. And I would say, and certainly you're closer to the program than I am, I think that the word on Texas has been, yeah, you can get up for these big games, but the week to week, and when you're playing a team that you're a lot better than, maybe you go and you play with your food. And I think that was the concern coming out of the Wyoming game. Did the performance against Baylor, which felt comprehensive in a lot of ways, did that alleviate a lot of the fears maybe among the Texas fan base that, oh no, this could be just another kind of letdown year for the Longhorns?
I think it did. And I think, the thing I'll say about that is that this defense has played great every game. They've been outstanding. The Alabama game, they gave up a couple of big explosive plays over the top. They've got some issues at safety and coverage that I think teams they're going to have to shore up, but they're deep back there. But I think mean, my read on this team so far through 4 games, if you're going to play that kind of defense and win the line of scrimmage as thoroughly as they do, have a Jalen Ford in the middle who's playing at an All-American level, and then the secondary's deep. If you're going to play that kind of defense, and then no matter how good they've played or consistent they've been on offense, Greg, they have a 21-point quarter in every game. They've had, the Rice game was the third quarter, the Bama game and the Wyoming game were the fourth quarter. The Baylor game, it was the second quarter. This team has an explosivity to it where all of a sudden you feel like you're in the game, and then bang, 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 they go on 3 straight drives and the game's over. So to have a 21-point quarter and all 4 wins kind of tells you if they get this offense into a consistent place that they're going to be really hard to beat because they're going to score a lot of points with this offense and Sark and Quinn getting more comfortable. And this defense isn't going to give up a lot, and you feel like that's going to be the most consistent part of this team. That's a pretty good recipe to alleviate those concerns of a letdown. But certainly they got to bring it every week. I mean, they've got to, take each week as it's a new mission, right? As they were talking about this week, this is our mission this week is to focus on Kansas. And that's why I started with the veterans. I think, the locker room is going to make sure that's the case. And so far, so good for Texas.
Erin Hogan of the Eyes on Texas podcast, the Republic Football Podcast Network, joining us here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation at #TFToday. Erin, the offense came in with a lot of hype and a lot of hullabaloo, and it has lived up to that. And then some. You mentioned the 21-point quarter they've gone on in each of their games. I am curious if there has been a surprise on that offensive side. I think we knew, Xavier Worthy, not a surprise. We thought he was going to be pretty good. Quinn Ewers, certainly the consistency I think has been a pleasant surprise there. Is there somebody or some aspect of this offense that has you saying, oh, I didn't necessarily see that coming in a positive way?
Well, I just alluded to Jonathan Brooks. I think that would be the one that, he played behind Bijan and Roschon for so long. And I know you guys covered him at Hallettsville, where he, was the bell cow on a small school that went to a state championship. He's just a hard-working dude. I think he's been a great surprise because, the question for me for this team coming into the year was who was going to replace that rushing production. When you lose 2 running backs of that caliber to the NFL, your offense was built around that, and everything else came from there. This team's going to be built a little bit more around the passing game. But in Steve Sarkisian's offense, you still want to have a power running game. They still want to have play action. And, who is that going to be? So I think a little bit of a surprise there that Brooks has played so well. He closed out the Alabama game where they just ran the ball and never had to punt the ball back to Bama with that 10-point lead. He, then followed that up with a huge game against Wyoming when the passing game was really out of sync. That Wyoming had a great defensive scheme for that game. They just ran the ball. And then, of course, we saw what he did against Baylor. With the speed. So he's been a really good surprise. I think the key to the offense for me, Greg, is the tight end, Jatavion Sanders. I think he is the fulcrum that makes them potentially, if they continue to develop and get better, the offense can be unstoppable because Sark uses so many personnel packages and groups, whether he goes heavy with 3 offensive linemen or they go empty with multiple and spread everybody out. But JT Sanders never has to leave the field in that. He can be a part of the heavy package. He can be a part of the 12 package, 11 package, spread it out. He's just that dynamic. And so whatever grouping or formation you want to go with, he's on the field and he just creates a matchup, right? If a linebacker's on him, he can beat it. If it's a defensive back, he's too big and athletic and making one-handed catches. And then he can also block pretty good. So in the run game, you can still line up and run the football, whether it's out of 11 personnel or 12. So I think really for me, he's the key. I mean, he's the one that I think gives defensive coordinators nightmares of figuring out what to do with because he's so big and so athletic. And he's the matchup problem while you have all the other problems you got to deal with.
This weekend, Saturday 2:30, Kansas state ranked or nationally ranked Kansas comes to town, 24th ranked, and this is a program that has I think brings up some bad memories to Texas fans.
Sure.
Noticeably 2021 and 2016. Texas, I don't think this is a real a hot opinion, but they look like the better team. What are you going to be watching for in this game Saturday to make sure that Texas takes care of business?
I think you're right about the bad memories, without a doubt, because there was also the 2 losses, but also Tom Herman had a game with Kansas that they had to survive in overtime. So it's one of those scary teams that, the year they won the last time they were in DKR 2 years ago, their only win over an FBS team. So yeah, there's some memories about that. But as far as this game, I mean, they're both so much better than they were 2 years ago. I mean, that's why it's such a fun game to talk about, because Texas is light years roster-wise, talent-wise, everything we've talked about already from that team. That was really the bottoming out point in Steve Sarkisian's first year, and kind of cleaned house after that. I kind of realized everybody that was on board and those that were not, and that was the clear game for that. But then this game, it's really about I just mentioned how consistent the Texas defense has been. This is a real challenge. I think Texas right now and Kansas are they're the two offenses in the Big 12 that have the best clear identity of what they are and what they want to be. And, Jay, this might be one of the few games Texas plays this year, where the quarterback advantage is probably with Kansas, because Jalen Daniels is so dynamic, and he's a veteran player, and Quinn Ewers is going to make his 14th start. That guy's really good. So, and Lance Leipold's system, much like Sark's does to opponents, it really tests you in a lot of ways. You've got to stop a couple of running backs, the receivers, maybe two quarterbacks will play. So this is one where, I saw the odds makers have it as a over under 66 or something like that. So they're expecting some points. So I'm looking to see the chess match between the Kansas offense and then Pete Kwiatkowski and the Texas defense. I do expect them to, score some points. Same time, they've got to be able to stop Texas too. So lots of light, but really looking forward to seeing how PK handles this team and deals with that, all the weaponry Lance Leipold has. And I think the Kansas defense is a little bit better this year than people are giving them credit for. They're improved on that side of the ball. He's
Erin Hogan. You can hear him on the Horn, 6 to 11 a.m. With our friend Rod Papers, and you can hear him on Eyes on Texas, on the Dave Campbell's Republic Football Podcast Network. Erin, appreciate your time, and enjoy the game on Saturday.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that new edition that we recorded last night of the podcast and multicast should be out today at some point, so be looking for it.
Go look for it. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you all.
There he goes, Erin Hogan of the Eyes on Texas podcast on the Republic Football Podcast Network. That's a professional. Makes us look like amateurs.
Correct.
That guy knows.
Most people do.
But that is, I think that this is, and you're somebody that I know your family has some Texas ties. Mm-hmm. I know Kansas causes you to go, huh.
Oh, every time. It's really the whole state of Kansas, because Lord K-State. Knows they can't win in Manhattan and Kansas. But the thing about Kansas was they always play down to their competition, and Kansas historically has been butt in football. Mm-hmm. It makes me feel a little bit better knowing Kansas isn't absolute trash, because you would think that the Longhorns wouldn't plummet all the way down there, but they always overlooked Kansas, and that's when they get you.
This might be the best Kansas team they've had since that 2007 year where they ran all the way to the Big 12 championship game.
And it's funny the Orange Bowl, right? I feel better about Texas playing a nationally ranked Kansas than I do them being 0-4.
I think there's a real argument to be made. This is the best Texas team since probably that 2010 national title game run. So, big game. Texas is the better team. That's not – I don't think I'm going on a limb here.
No. Oh, absolutely
Texas is the better team.
On paper, I think on the field, but –
At home, at DKR, right?
Yeah. Mentally, don't mess this one up. Mm-hmm. That's all it takes.
Especially considering who's next week.
Yep. That's literally all it takes. Don't mess this one up.
Next week's OU. And don't get caught looking. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, we appreciate Erin Hogan. That new episode of Eyes on Texas coming to the Dave Campbell's Republic Football Podcast Network feed. Go subscribe right now.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.